Want to move outside of the United States, and I want that for you. But there's one thing I want to help you to avoid. I want to help you to avoid underestimating the cost of a bad decision. Okay. Now, before we begin, I'm Arnitha Webb, global lifestyle strategist, founder of RYL Abroad, and I do invite you into the community. Okay. Now, I want to start this by talking about what we hear a lot, the terms that we hear a lot, because we have like 35 million Americans living outside of the United States, okay? And they are not all doing it the same way. So, the two terms that you mostly hear are digital nomad and expats, right? Two completely different buckets, if you will. All right. Now let's think about the assumptions that come with the two. When you Google digital nomad, you probably get the IG perfect pictures of someone lounging in a hammock, lounging on the beach, with a laptop, working a couple of hours a day, and you know, then doing nothing or partying or whatever it is that they're doing with the rest of their day, right? You think of backpackers, you think of them, living in hostels. You think about, just a very nomadic, wanderlust way of living. Probably no kids, single, young, backpack, living a very minimalist life. That's the imagery that we get when we think of digital nomad. Someone who may be, in the tech world, a very techie person, because they have their laptop. That's their main source of income. They may even be putting multiple gigs together, right? Or like what we do in the RYL abroad community, I help people create their own stream of income so that they can, go out there and live however it is that they want to live, right? But basically, I probably just described what Google will show you and what your assumptions are when you think of a digital nomad. Now, on the other hand, when you think of expat, you probably think of stability, someone who may have a family, have relocated outside the United States with a job, have a career, higher end income, or on the other hand, a retiree has their pension, their social security, their dividends, their investments, and they've probably applied for a non-lucrative visa or a retirement visa, um, and that's the image that we get, but a very, very different, person and from that of the digital nomad, just two completely different types of people at different points in life, right? That's the assumption. But one of the things that I really, really, really ask people to do in RYL Abroad, and especially if you're doing the Living Abroad Profile Challenge, is to clear the slate, erase everything you think you know. Okay. My father used to have this saying, he used to say, Arnitha, what you don't know will create a world. And every day that I live and breathe, that statement becomes truer and truer. So I'm going to ask you to forget what Google is showing you, forget everything, and just go with a clean slate. Okay. Because remember, I said I wanted to help you um, with the cost of making the wrong decision, underestimating the cost of a wrong decision. Okay. Now, when you think of a digital nomad, or when you think of, let me back up. So when you think about strategizing this life abroad, you probably come up with a couple of things that are very important to you. You come up with a list of countries. You probably navigate all the top 10 lists, top 10 cheapest countries to live in, top countries to live on, X amount per month, top 10 countries best for Black women, top 10 countries for this. We can do the top 10 list until the cows come home, right? I could just talk about the top list. But recently I did a video that communicated to you that there was something that comes up so frequently, and I really implore you to take it off of your list. And that is cost of living. And why do I say that? I say that because number one, by keeping it there at top of list, you're leading with a limitation. So everything that you get in your set of results is going to be based first on this limitation that you've put yourself in. Okay. Lead with the things that are important to you, lead with the things that are valuable to you, and then see what your choices are, and then bring your cost of living onto deck and see which countries now fit. I guarantee you you'll have a different set of countries because you haven't led with the limitation. Instead, you've led with all the things that are truly important to you. Okay? But when it comes to strategizing, I don't want you to be one of these people that um, think they understand what a digital nomad is or what the digital nomad lifestyle is versus that of an expat. And they look at these top 10 lists and they go into the communities and they hear from the expats that are in those countries. And they may even plan a scouting trip, and where they're going on their scouting trips, those countries are hitting some key points for them. They're hitting cost of living. They're hitting environment and climate. They're hitting healthcare. They're hitting even the fact that there's an American expat community there for you. So you'll have a soft landing there. Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect, but it's not perfect because it's not perfect for you. It's not perfect for how you want to live your day-to-day life. It's not perfect for you because it doesn't align with your goals. It's perfect for someone else. And it may even be perfect for someone else for a short period of time. And then they come back to the US and then tell everybody how it was not perfect for them. And that's why they're back in the United States. That, my friend, is what I mean when I say I want you to avoid the cost of and the challenges, because a lot of this you can avoid. You can avoid, okay? And I want to help you avoid it. So, when you um let me use myself as the example in this, okay? Because I do hear from a lot of people in a lot of different countries just because of my international insurance side of my business. So I have a lot of clients in a lot of different countries. Okay. But personally, in my own journey, having a American expat community is not in my top 3 or 5 because I personally don't need that. I'll I'll say, "Oh, I'll create what I need," you know? I don't need that. But that doesn't mean it's not important, and if it's important to you, then you keep it there. But when I say start with a clean slate and not start with limitations, you allow yourself to look at some countries that you may not have considered, okay? When I decided that I was going to not stay in the United States, I only considered myself expat route. That's it. I'm not gallivanting around, with a backpack and all the images that I described of what a digital nomad, what we assume it is. That is so not me. I'm not doing that. Okay. But you'll hear me talk about slow travel. And when I talk about slow travel, I'm not talking about extended vacations. I'm not talking about people who just want to, vacation a month out of the year, 2 months out the year. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about strategy. I'm always talking about strategy. Okay. Had I not allowed myself to clean the slate and decide to go on my own terms, I would never have experienced what I learned in some of the countries that I experienced. Let me give you an example. This just comes to mind. You know how I flow. I don't have a script. I flow naturally here. So let me just share something with you. I left the United States with things packed to be moved abroad. Again, I was only looking at the expat route. But in looking for the expat route, I gave myself an opportunity to go live, not do scouting trips, but to go live in some countries that I had on my short list. And in between some of these stops, I had some mini stops, mini MINI stops, not mini stops. And in these other countries, I would plan to, go visit, do the touristy thing for like a week or two. So in one of these countries, when I got there, I'm not going to say the name of the country. I don't want to. I don't want to lose the point I'm trying to make, and I'll explain why in a moment. When I got to this country that I was only set to stay in for a week, I arrived exhausted, and I decided, I didn't want to spend my first day in the hotel, not doing anything. So I decided to do one of these hop on, hop off buses because at least I'm out and about. I'm still doing something to learn about the country without having to walk, without having to do a lot because I'm tired. And so I get a seat on the top. Weather is beautiful. I plug my ears up and I'm happy. I'm content. Okay. And as we are going through the city, it's beautiful. I'm happy with the choice that I made. But we came to a neighborhood where the bus stopped. And when it stopped, the tour guide starts talking about a period of history of that country that is very negative and very dark and caused just atrocities. Okay. And at some point, the tour guide asks us to look at the buildings, really sit and look at the buildings and imagine the number of apartments in the buildings, imagine families living in the buildings and so forth. Imagine life in that particular time, in that area. And then they asked us to close our eyes and they took us to in our imagination, an event that occurred that was that was horrific. And it asked us to imagine it happening right there. And then as it brought us out of that, mind you, the bus has stopped. As it so it has not moved. As it brought us out of that, it went into the laws that the country enacted afterwards to ensure that something like that could not possibly happen there again. And at that point, I was wide awake. I was wide awake because I was not accustomed to that sort of candor about history. I am an American, and in America, we don't tell the truth about history. And we certainly are not that open to discussion about it, right? This is why when when I was in a lot of groups and I was early in my journey and you have a lot of discussions going on about, matter of fact, I will tell you something because someone said this to me quite recently, like within the last 10 days. I always get this, you know, why go to a country that has a certain history of racism or discrimination or what have you, like, you shouldn't even, as a Black woman, you shouldn't even be considering certain countries. And that's kind of um I don't want to, because I'm not it's not my wheelhouse to get deep into this discussion on my channel. However, I am an American. I am from a country built on racism. I am from a country that does not tell the truth about its history. I am from a country of that has every nook and cranny of it. Right? So, um there is an assumption with the relocating outside of the United States that we are, while we are most certainly looking for greener pastures, are we so delusional that we think that there's a certain paradise, a certain area where everything is perfect? Are we looking for heaven? you know um No, we're solid and very realistic about the world and about life, and things can happen anywhere. Okay, we go into this eyes wide open. All right, but there's levels to this. When sometimes, I think when someone says something like that to me, I want to go, hello, I'm American. My people built this country. Like that, you can't talk to me about racism as an American. We can talk about it. Um, but our perspective of our experience with it, I think, is very different. Okay, not saying it's not, racism is racism, but every country has had its its um its ugliness with it, and how the experience, people has had different experiences with it. Okay. um and yes, I do, to be sitting on a tour bus, and a tour bus, I just want you to imagine that. Okay, most countries are just talking about the landmarks and all the good stuff and the beauty and the food. Okay, and here was a country that was like, no, let us take you to our worst blemish, the worst of who we are. Let us bring that to your attention, and let us bring that to your attention for the purpose of acknowledging our wrongs and showing you that we are doing so much to be better and to ensure we never go down that dark path again. Yeah, I was in a country that did that on their hop on hop off bus. Then we ended up going further. The bus started moving again, and we ended up in front of their UN building, or the building where, their international leaders would meet and what have you. So the equivalent of their UN building, and an audio. It played an audio from that period of time of their dark days. And then it played someone who, from today's era, I'll say. And it took us through a little quick, very quick mini comparison. Listen to this, listen to that. You hear the same thing, kind of thing. And it was like, wow. And the point was, it's so important to be honest and not afraid of the worst so that you can do better. And again, pointing out another set of laws and different changes that country had undergone, so that it would never have that sort of thing happen again. Needless to say, I extended my stay for an additional week at that time because I said I need to stay here a little longer. I like this kind of honesty. I like this. A country that never would have been on a top 10 um, list for me. I like this. And I want to stay a little longer and see what life is like here. I have since gone back to that country and stayed for months on end. Okay. Um, as a digital nomad. As a digital nomad, because I did not apply for an expat visa to do so. So each time that I went to stay, I was regular tourist visa. My US passport allows me to stay in that country for up to 3 months at a time. Okay. But I will tell you this, on my journey to being an expat, I planned at that time to give myself a year to go to a couple of the countries that were on my short list to expat to. And if you my point, your point, Arnitha, if you, rather than doing a 2-week scouting trip, if you allow yourself to erase the slate of what you think a digital nomad is, and take the time, you can have your house packed up, have everything packed up to go. I did. But before I gave destination and address and filled out visa application. I said, I'm gonna do this for a bit. I'm gonna go live somewhere for a bit first in a neighborhood, not in a touristy area. Go shopping, interact with local people, see how easy it is to make friends, see how received I am. I don't know any American expats there. So therefore, I am reliant on the people in the community, the people that I come in contact with to develop friends and develop some type of social network. Let me see what it's like. Okay. And that, my friend, will help you to avoid the cost of possibly moving to the wrong place. It will help you avoid the cost of not finding the right place. Okay? Allow yourself to erase what the images give you of both of those categories and write your own. Do it because it's what you need to do before you make that decision to apply for the long-term visa. Use your US passport to go live somewhere for 3 to 6 months. See if it really works for you. Go to a few places. Look at, we come up with the living abroad profile, we come up with a long list, and then it turns into a short list. Okay, your short list, you end up with 3 to 4 countries. Take those 3 to 4 countries, take a 12-month period of time and live in each one of those countries in a neighborhood. And then I would challenge you even a step further. Okay, because this was the gift that keeps on giving to me. I decided in a place that rather than renting a short-term apartment, oh, and here's another thing. Avoid Airbnb. Don't avoid Airbnb because I don't do Airbnb. Avoid Airbnb so that you can do local business, so that you could do business with someone from that country, so that you could have a lease, even if it's for 3 months. Okay. Granted, there are a couple of countries that's harder to do, and you may have to go for one of the short-term living buildings, but even those are better than the Airbnbs. Do local business, because even if you decide, and I have had many countries tell me this. I have had many a realtor say to me, "You want to stay longer? We have documentation we can give you so that you can go ahead and apply for your visa to stay." Even in countries that say that it's in writing that you need to go back to America and apply from your home country, apply from the consulate in America. Because I was sitting there not inside of an Airbnb, but in a full-blown, rental with a local company. They're like, there's workarounds because you're already here, and there's workarounds because you have this type of lease. Okay? There's ways that you can avoid mistakes of choosing the wrong place and avoid all the stuff that comes along with making those mistakes. I think I've said this before, I do not want you to be one of these people that leave the United States for a couple of years, 3, 5 years or whatever, and then find your way back because you realize this country wasn't what it was cracked up to be. It did not suit how you wanted to live your day-to-day life. It did not have all of the nuanced things that you hadn't considered because your top three was maybe cost of living, healthcare, environment, having a expat group that I could associate with. That's not enough. That's not enough, guys, for such a big move. It's not. It's not. You got to go a little deeper than that. Okay, especially if being an expat is your ultimate goal. I would say, as part of a strategy, not for all, but for some, it's a good idea and a good strategy to write your ticket to be a digital nomad for at least 12 months first, and be sure and know that you know that you know. And don't assume just because certain websites say this is how you must do it. When you are inside of a country, I was inside of a country with no work visa, no visa whatsoever. Okay. I walked inside of places, introduced myself, gave them my credentials, sat down and talked, went across to the store, came back with some fruit or some sandwiches for us to eat and continue talking. And they worked out ways for me to work. Is nothing like face to face, real connections with locals, not just the expat groups. Dig in. If you plan on living somewhere, um, there are those that can go to a country and be very much okay with sort of insulating themselves with a small circle. But I say integrate, learn new things, get everything and then some out of a move like this. Okay, this is the time that you can write your life to be what you want it to be. Why put limitations on yourself in your experience? Get everything God has for you. Everything. Because what you could imagine it to be, it's 10 times more. Because it's always it's always more when you get out of the way, right? And be open to the blessings. It's always more than what you bargained for. So allow yourself to be open and allow this move to be the best thing that you ever did. Okay? Ciao.